From the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub Podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Well, good morning, security gang. Welcome to another episode of the CyberHub Podcast Practitioner Brief. Everything you need in hopefully under 10 minutes. We've got a busy show today, but I hope you enjoyed your weekend. August 1st, 2022. We're getting ready towards the end of the year, right? It's like the last month of summer, really. Then fall starts. Kids are back to school, at least here in the South. Kids go back to school next week. Things start to kind of fall into what I like to call an annual routine as we get away from summer. And that means that from a perspective, from a hygiene perspective, from a cyber perspective, also some of the human behavior elements change. And with those changes, that also increases risk and requires us to make some adjustments as practitioners. So we'll get into all of that on today's show. Let me grab my trusty double espresso, whatever you're drinking this morning. I hope you enjoy it as much as I love my double espressos. Coffee cup cheers. Let's get into our first story of the day, where Cisa is now warning organizations to patch Confluence. Talking about Confluence for the last 2 weeks. Track the CVE 2022-26138. It's related to the existence of an account name called Disabled System User. And it's designed to help admins migrate data from the app to Confluence Cloud. The problem is it's created with a hard-coded password. It's added to the Confluence user groups, and people can get access to it. Immediately within notice, people started scanning for Confluence servers, right? People, I mean, threat actors. Many were urged to please patched. Some did, some didn't. There's now proof of concepts that are being publicly released. There's threat actors actually scanning. CISA is now saying government agencies have to patch or mitigate this CVE by August 19th. The private sector quicker, right? So you obviously see this as being one of the different challenges that exist here is patching these environments and how so many of them remain unpatched. And part of it could be because of just bad patch management programs within the organization. That goes to another one of these stories where cyber spies are actually using Chrome extensions to steal emails, and that's going undetected. A North Korean-backed threat group which is being tracked by the name of Kaminsky, is using a malicious browser extension to steal emails from Google Chrome or Microsoft Edge users reading their webmail. Again, outside of the app. So this is, you're going to outlook.com or you're going to gmail.com, and that's how you're accessing your information, your email. The extension, which is dubbed SharpX by Velocity researchers who spotted the campaign in September, supports 3 Chromium web-based browsers, Chrome, Edge, and Whale, and can steal email from Gmail and AOL accounts. The attackers installed the malicious extension after compromising a target system using a custom VPS script by replacing the preferences and secure preferences files with the ones downloaded from the malware command and control servers. Once these new preferences are downloaded on the infected device, the web browser automatically loads the SharpX extension. The malware directly inspects and exfiltrates data from the victim's webmail account as they browse it. Since its discovery, the extension has evolved. It's currently on version 3.0 based on internal versioning systems. It's further revealed that the latest campaigns aligns with previous Kaminsky attacks as it deploys the SharpX in targeted attacks on foreign policy, nuclear, and other individuals of strategic interest for the North Koreans in the US, Europe, and South Korea. And mind you, North Korea, anything they do is always partially tied to China in one way or another, right? They get their skills from there, they get their bandwidth from there. I mean, everything that the North Koreans do comes from China. So it's stealthy, it's very, very high effective. Something to keep in mind why you may want to rely on using messaging apps rather than just a web-based type. Gootkit loader is resurfaces with an updated tactic to compromise machines. The operators of the Gootkit access as a service malware has resurfaced with updated techniques to compromise unsuspecting victims. According to Trend Micro, in the past, Gootkit used freeware installers to mask malicious files. Now it's using legal documents to trick users into downloading these. The findings build on a previous report from eCentire, which disclosed in January of widespread attacks aimed at employees of accounting and law firms to deploy malware on infected machines. Gootkit is part of a proliferating underground ecosystem of access brokers who are known to provide other malicious actors a pathway into corporate networks for a price, paving the way to actual ransomware attacks or data theft as well. So something to keep in mind there. Malicious macro-enabled docs are being delivered via container files to bypass the new Microsoft protection. So Microsoft, obviously, macros, huge deal. They tried to disable them. They kind of brought them back. And in that time period, threat actors got much, much better. So threat actors are now embedding macro-enabled Office documents and container files like archives and disk images to circumvent a recently rolled out macro blocking feature in Microsoft Office. Initially announced in February, the macro blocking feature is meant to prevent phishing attacks by making it more difficult for users to enable macros in documents received from the internet. Small snippets of the code embedded in Office documents macros has long been abused by threat actors in phishing and malware delivery. In 2016, Microsoft disabled the automated execution of macros in Office docs. Adversaries have been using different social engineering techniques to enable macros, but this new mechanism by Microsoft blocks macros by default. A red notification at the top of the page warns users that macros have been blocked and that if clicked on, takes them to a web article explaining the risks associated with macros. To circumvent the mechanism, now they're rolling out Office docs in formats like IMG, ISO, R, and zip, according to Proofpoint. So they're getting more creative as we up our defense. And the U.S. government is starting to warn Americans of escalating SMS phishing attacks. The FCC warned Americans of an increasing wave of SMS phishing attacks attempting to steal personal information and money. Such attacks are also known as smishing or robo-attacks, and scammers behind them may use various lures to trick you into handing over your hard-earned cash or confidential information. The FCC tracks consumer complaints rather than call or text volume, and complaints about unwanted text messages has risen steadily in recent years from approximately 5,700 in 2019 to 14,000 in 2020 and 15,300 in 2021 to 8,500 just through June of this year alone, on pace to beat last year. In addition, some reports estimate billions of robo-texts each month. For example, RoboKiller estimates consumers received 12 billion robo-texts just in June. So some of the most devious and convincing lures used in text messages phishing attacks are links redirecting to landing pages, either impersonating banks, asking them to unlock or verify a purchase or unlock frozen credit reports. And this is something good to pass along your teams. Obviously, it's a good piece of education there that text messages are a threat vector, and they do risk our organization just as much as anything else, especially if people reuse passwords, right? So someone reuses their password, they get their accounts stolen, they get their password stolen through one of these phishing attacks, and now they can compromise your environment with that. So keep that in mind. Folks, that's it for our show today. Security Gang, we'll be back with a whole lot more tomorrow. Until then, have a great rest of your day. And most importantly, stay cyber safe.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.